this Australian dream that I didn't know I had back in 3rd, 4th grade manifested itself into my current reality. Anything you can imagine is real. That goes to say, whatever you focus on, you manifest into your life. It's not solely just by, thinking about it that it's going to appear. You've got to obviously take action. You've got to put in the elbow grease, put in the work. But I want to tell you guys a little story about how I ended up here, talking to the camera, driving my Impreza in Australia. I'm on my way to work right now. Just wanted to film this quick video. It's a bit chaotic right now. There's more traffic than usual. But anyways, let me get back to the story. So let's go way back. Before, this whole Australia thing, before everything else even was a possibility. Or not even a possibility, but, just something that I thought would actually even exist for my future. So, let's start back in about 3rd grade. My mom was offered the opportunity to move to Australia with all expenses paid, and also assistance looking for housing as well as a full-time job. Now, for whatever reason, we decided not to take that up, which, looking back is fine. It all worked out. But to think back, I could have had moved to Australia when I was in 3rd, 4th grade and ended up, doing all my schooling here, going to university here. It's crazy to think that my life could have been that way. But it didn't happen that way. And at the time, finding out that we ended up deciding not to move to Australia, I didn't think much of it, because my friends were here. It was some crazy, dream. I didn't even know that Australia was as modern as it is. At the time, I had no knowledge of what Australia was like. So for me, it wasn't a huge loss, let's say. And but I think, and it's easy to say this now that I live in Australia and I'm, soon to be a permanent resident. It's easy to say that, oh yeah, it makes sense now. But at the time, I didn't know anything would come of it. I thought, oh yeah, that would be cool, to move to Australia. But it didn't happen. I was like, okay, well, on to the next. I thought it was just another one of those crazy ideas that come up every now and then. And then you fast forward. So back then I was in 3rd, 4th grade when this whole situation happened. Then you fast forward. I've graduated high school. I've finished my associate degree, my community college design degree, and I've been working in the field for a little bit. Then I did some other things, tried some freelance and working as a barista and things. And it was when I found my first cafe job that I met a few friends that had done a working holiday visa in Australia. Because growing up, we didn't travel a whole lot. Our travel was either, Vegas or San Francisco, Sacramento. Those were our kinds of travels. So for me to think that I could travel on the other side of the globe, I thought I had to have, $10,000 saved up, or, I thought I had to have a huge lump sum of money to be able to go and explore the world. But when I found out that I could go to Australia and sort of work and pay my way while I'm here, it was a no-brainer. From that point, I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing that someday. And, I thought about it, and that's what triggered me in 2019 to make the goal to leave the country for the very first time in my life. And, I could easily just drive down to Mexico, for the day and grab some tacos. I wouldn't mind that. But I thought I need to do something bigger. I need to do something that's gonna scare the shit out of me. And that's when I decided, why not go to the other side of the world as my first time outside the country. And so that's what I did. Back in 2019, I booked a flight for December 30th. Time traveled a day. I missed New Year's fireworks, and I landed in Melbourne, Australia at about 7 or 7:30 in the morning on January 1st, 2020. And from that point on, the story just got crazy, which I'll dive deeper into future videos about that. But it's just crazy to think that in 3rd, 4th grade, I almost had the opportunity to migrate with my mom to Australia, but we decided not to. And then about 10 years or some odd numbers later, I met a few people that did some working holiday thing in Australia, and then I was like, oh, maybe that's something I can do. And so that's what I ended up doing, and here we are. I didn't anticipate to migrate to Australia initially. I just came to travel, because I wanted to explore the world before getting stuck in my 9 to 5. And oh, that sun's bright. That sun's bright as. I just wanted to travel the world before getting stuck in my 9 to 5, and that's what led me to take the leap to come to Australia. And with all the crazy things that happened, COVID, all these lockdowns happening 3.5 months after I had arrived, I think, everything works out the way it's supposed to. And somehow this Australian dream that I didn't know I had back in 3rd, 4th grade manifested itself into my current reality. Once I become a permanent resident, then it's like I could stay here forever if I want. And it's just crazy to think that, like, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to communicate. This is just sort of off the cuff, but it's just surreal when you look back at that moment where I didn't think anything of it, and then now here I am sitting in my car with the steering wheel on the wrong side or the right side, whatever you want to say, of the car, going into my 9 to 5 job, with my wife at home. And it's surreal how things just work out that way. And that's not the only thing in my life that I've sort of manifested, but it's definitely probably the biggest, I would say, to totally relocate to a new country. It's not easy. It's very difficult because you're away from all your family, all of your friends. You're away from every, street and sidewalk that like the back of your hand. You're thrown into the wild, essentially, and you just survive. And it's been a wild journey, but I just want to share, that if you think about things that you want, you can manifest them into your life. I manifested traveling the world into my life, and of course, it didn't come by just thinking about it. It came by me, doing the extra work, doing the extra freelance work outside of my 2 jobs, back home, then saving up enough money to move to Australia, and also, taking the risk, jumping off, not knowing whether, I was gonna last a month or how it might end up. But you just take the leap, and things will always work out. Now, of course, you'll have some bumps here and there, but I feel like life gives you what you can handle. Even if you feel like, oh, this is crazy, I can't do this. Just know that you can. Not everything's easy, but you can. And I think I'm sort of getting off script. Well, I don't have a script actually, but I just wanted to get on here and just sort of yap about you know, how crazy it is to think that, you know, as a third grader, fourth grader, you know, there's some idea of like, oh, moving to Australia and, you know, having a half pipe in my backyard and all these things that I dreamt about as a kid, you know, at that age, to now, you know, being 30 years old and having a wife, having a, you know, good job, you know, and having relatively balanced lifestyle, you know, with all my interests all my hobbies, all my interests. And I guess one more thing to sort of segue, the next thing that I'm manifesting into my life is my Subaru BRZ. Now, I might have mentioned this in a previous video, but I've dreamt about this car since 2012 when they first came out with the BRZ. I was about maybe 16 or so in high school, and living in, you know, Nevada where it gets snowy a lot of the year. Well, not a lot of year, but you know, the weather can be poor for a good portion of the year, and it's not ideal to have a rear wheel drive car. So I suppose that's why my sort of efforts to obtain that car sort of, you know, went to the side for a little bit. But now that I've been living in Australia and the weather is quite good year round, you know, no snow, no nothing, maybe a little bit of rain, but it doesn't hurt much. I feel like now I live in a place where I can fully enjoy that car. And that's why the BRZ is that next thing that I'm manifesting into my life, because it is a childhood dream car. And, you know, at the same time, it's also not a terrible, you know, purchase of a car. Because of course I want a Porsche, and I believe I can, you know, own a Porsche one day. But for now, you know, while I'm doing all these other things, migrating to Australia, you know, everything else that's, you know, life is thrown at me, I feel like BRZ is about 80% of a Porsche, I reckon. At least that's what many people that have reviewed the car have told me. I've driven the BRZ a couple times, but the older models, and I just love this tactile feel, you know, this connection to the road. You know, it's the connection to the road, the connection to my grandfather, you know, watching him race when I was younger. I don't want to lose that side of me, you know? Like there's a little bit of a inner child, you know? So that's the next thing I'm manifesting. It's gonna happen, and I'm super excited. I can almost feel my hands on the keys. I can feel my, you know, hand on the gear stick. I can see myself doing oil changes on this car and changing spark plugs and whatever else. And yeah, anything you can imagine is real. I think it was Pablo Picasso that said that. Let me know who said it in the comments if I got that one wrong. But yeah, I think it's gonna be an exciting journey. I love my current car, Bluey. Her name's Bluey, sort of like the Australian cartoon, because, well, the paint job is blue, so yeah, you put two and two together. But there'll be a bit more content on this car coming up, and eventually, in the very, very near future, there'll be some content on the BRZ, which I'm extremely excited about. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you grab yourself a nice, let's say, cappuccino or long black or Americano, wherever you are in the world. Grab yourself your favorite beverage and just enjoy the day. Get some sunshine. You know, it's nice to have the sun on your face. But anyways, I'll see you guys later. Ciao.